Every proposal I send includes an SLA section, 99.9% uptime, 20-minute update cadence during incidents, credits calculated automatically if I miss the target. It looks professional. It sounds enterprise. Clients love it. And for the first 8 months of my business, every word of that section was a lie. Not intentionally. I believed I could deliver 99.9. I probably was delivering it. But if you'd asked me to prove it, to show you the incident timeline, the client notifications, the credit math, I had nothing. No status page, no runbook, no alert that told me something was down before a client slacked me at 11 p.m. saying, "Hey, the dashboard isn't loading." The contradiction hit me during a renewal call. Client asks, "We had that outage in March. How long was it actually down?" And I'm scrolling through Slack messages trying to reconstruct a timeline from memory. 45 minutes of silence on my end while the client waited for an answer I should have had in 10 seconds. That's the gap. You can write an SLA in 15 minutes. You can promise the moon. But the distance between promising an SLA and operating one, actually having the infrastructure to detect, communicate, calculate, and close, that distance is where solo operators lose enterprise clients. Today we're closing that distance, the whole loop, one afternoon. If you're running production automations for clients and you don't have a closed loop from alert to status update to credit calculation, you are one bad incident away from a renewal conversation where the client has better records than you do, and you will lose that conversation. This is the Season 2 finale of Headcount Zero. I'm Jordan, and we're wrapping the solo ops season by building the one system that ties everything together, SLA monitoring automation. Your monitor fires, a draft status update appears for your approval, Slack enforces your update cadence, and when the incident closes, the credit math runs itself. By the end of this episode, you'll have the architecture for all of it. Before we build anything, a misconception I need to kill. People set up a status page and think they've set up monitoring. They haven't. Atlassian says this explicitly in their own docs. Status page is a communication tool. It does not check whether your endpoints are up. It doesn't ping your webhooks. It knows nothing about your infrastructure unless something tells it. The loop starts upstream, with your monitor. Uptrends, Datadog, Uptime Robot, whatever you're already running. The monitor detects the problem. Everything after that is communication and math. So here's the architecture. 5 pieces, 1 loop. Monitor detects an issue. Your automation drafts a status page incident. Drafts, not publishes. That draft lands in a Slack channel for your review. You approve it, it goes public, and Slack starts enforcing your update cadence. When the incident resolves, the metadata feeds a credit calculator that tells you exactly what you owe. A post-incident report captures the timeline for your records and your clients. That's the loop. Now let's wire it. The Statuspage API. You need an API key. Create it from the API info screen in your account. Important note, as of June 30th, Atlassian is deprecating API keys passed as query parameters. Send your key in the authorization header. Format is authorization::OAuth, then your key. Store it in your secrets manager, not hard-coded in a scenario. The endpoint you care about is post to /v1/pages/your page ID/incidents. The payload is a JSON object with an incident key containing name, the title your clients see, status, which starts as investigating, impact override, none, minor, major, or critical, component IDs mapping to the services on your page, and body, the public message. And the critical field, deliver notifications, set it to false. When you create the incident, you do not want it blasting emails and SMS to subscribers automatically. You want a draft. A private draft you review before anyone sees it. The instinct is to automate end-to-end. Monitor fires, incident publishes, subscribers get notified. Fully hands-off. That instinct will burn you. PagerDuty's Stakeholder Communications Guide makes this point. Raw alerts often lack context. A monitor might fire because of a 30-second blip that self-resolves. If that blip auto-publishes a major outage notification, you've created a trust problem out of a non-event. I learned this the hard way. Early version of this loop auto-published everything. One Saturday morning, a DNS propagation delay triggered my monitor. 60 seconds later, it resolved, but 3 clients had already received an email saying, "Major outage, investigating." I spent the rest of my Saturday explaining that nothing was actually wrong. So the pattern is human in the loop for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Automation creates the incident with notifications off. Post the draft to a private Slack channel. You read it. If it's real, you react with a checkmark emoji, and a second automation flips deliver notifications to true. If it's a false alarm, you dismiss it and the public page never changes. Once an incident is live, you need to keep talking. Atlassian's incident communication best practices recommend updates every 20 to 30 minutes until resolution. Not when you have something new. Every 20 to 30 minutes. Because silence during an outage is louder than bad news. A message that says, "Still investigating, we've narrowed it to the database connection pool, next update in 20 minutes. That's worth more than a fix that arrives silently. But when you're solo and actually debugging the problem, remembering to post a public update every 20 minutes is the last thing on your mind. So, Slack does it for you. Simplest version, /remind, the channel name, post a public update, what changed plus next ETA, every 20 minutes. When the incident resolves, /remind list, mark it complete. 15 seconds to set up. If you want something more structured, Slack's workflow builder lets you create a shortcut that posts a pinned incident template and loops a reminder every 20 or 30 minutes until someone posts a resolve command. It's not sophisticated, it's a timer and a nudge, but it's the difference between a client who trusts your process and a client who's refreshing your status page, wondering if anyone's home. Now, what actually goes in your SLA? You need 2 numbers and 1 cadence. Time to first response, how quickly you acknowledge the problem. Zendesk, Freshdesk, Intercom, all the major help desk platforms formalize this metric. For a solo consultant during business hours, 15 to 30 minutes is credible. Next, response time. How long between updates once the incident is open? 20 to 30 minutes, matching the Atlassian recommendation. And you can specify a different cadence for off hours. Best effort, updates within 60 minutes, is honest and reasonable. Don't promise what you can't automate. Uptime target. 99.9% monthly sounds aggressive, but a 30-day month has about 43,000 minutes. 99.9 means you're allowed 43 minutes of downtime. If you're building on providers like Vercel or DigitalOcean, who themselves commit to 99.99, 43 minutes is achievable. Not easy, but achievable. Now, the part that makes this loop pay for itself. When an incident resolves, you have metadata. Start time, end time, duration, affected components, severity. That's everything you need to compute what you owe. 2 models work. Uptime bands. This is what Vercel uses. Monthly uptime between 99.1 and 99.98%. 10% credit. Between 95 and 99, 25%. Below 95, 50%. Clean tiers. Or simpler, per interval credits. 5% for every 30 minutes of downtime, capped at 50%. 65 minutes down means 3 intervals times 5%, 15% credit. On a $2,000 retainer, that's $300. And here's why automating this matters. You don't want to be the person who calculates credits only when a client asks. You want to send a credit notice proactively, before the client even thinks to check. That's a trust signal agencies with 10 people can't match. Their process requires 3 approvals and a finance review. Yours requires a formula and an email template triggered when an incident closes with downtime greater than 0. Okay, now I need to be honest about something. Because everything I just described sounds clean. Monitor fires, draft appears, you approve, cadence runs, credits calculate. Neat loop. Ship it. But I've been running this system for almost a year now, and the failure modes are real. They're not hypothetical. The first one is alert noise. If your monitor is too sensitive, and most default configurations are, you'll get draft incidents for things that aren't incidents. A 30-second timeout. A single failed health check that passes on retry. A CDN edge node hiccup in a region none of your clients use. Each one creates a Slack message you have to evaluate. And when you're getting 4 or 5 of those a week, you start ignoring them. That's the worst outcome. You've built a system that trains you to dismiss alerts. I hit this in month 2. My uptime robot checks were set to 1-minute intervals with a single failure trigger. I was getting draft incidents for blips that resolved before I could even open Slack. So I dismiss. And then one Tuesday afternoon, I dismissed a real one. Client's webhook endpoint was actually down. I caught it 40 minutes later because a client messaged me, which is exactly the scenario this whole system is supposed to prevent. The second failure mode is cadence fatigue. You set up the 20-minute reminders, and during a real incident that lasts 2 hours, you're getting pinged 6 times. By the 4th reminder, you're posting, "Still investigating, no change," which is exactly what PagerDuty warns against. Empty updates erode trust faster than silence does, because now the client is reading updates that say nothing and wondering if you're actually working the problem. And the third one? The third one is harder to talk about. It's the false confidence problem. You build this loop, you put SLA commitments in your proposals, and you start promising things based on the assumption that the system works. But the system is only as good as your monitor configuration, your approval discipline, and your willingness to actually send credits when you owe them. I had a month where my monitor missed a degradation. Not a full outage, a slow response time issue, and my status page showed green the entire time. Client noticed before I did. Again. So here's what I actually learned. The guardrails matter more than the loop. First, tune your monitor before you connect it to anything. Require 2 consecutive failures across 2 check locations before an alert fires. That alone killed 80% of my false drafts. Second, deduplication. Your automation checks whether an incident is already open for the same component before creating a new one. Simple lookup. Third, the cadence reminders are reminders, not auto posters. They nudge you. You still write the update. And if nothing has changed, you post a shorter note with a fresh ETA, not no change. PagerDuty's guidance here is direct. Set expectations for the next update, but never repeat empty messages. The philosophy is human in the loop. The automation handles plumbing, creating drafts, enforcing timing, computing math. You handle judgment. Is this real? What should I tell the client? Is this update worth sending? That split is what makes it sustainable solo. You're not replacing yourself. You're giving yourself a system that remembers the things you forget when you're knee-deep in a production issue at 2 a.m. And if you want the copy-paste version of all of this, the Notion Ops Manual, the API snippets with the approval gate, the Slack cadence workflow, the credit calculator with both models, and the post-incident report template, grab the Solo SLA Loop Starter Kit on the resources page. So, remember that renewal call I mentioned at the top? Client asks how long the March outage lasted, and I'm digging through Slack messages like an archaeologist. That call is what started all of this. And the version of me on the other end of that call today has a very different answer. I pull up the incident record. 47 minutes. Sev 2. 3 public updates during the event. Credit of 7.5% already applied to last month's invoice. Post-incident report with the root cause and the fix. That answer takes 10 seconds, and it changes the entire dynamic. You're not defending yourself. You're demonstrating a process. The client doesn't leave that call worried about reliability. They leave thinking, this person runs a tighter operation than vendors 10 times their size. That's what SLA monitoring automation actually gives you. Not just compliance, credibility. This is the last episode of Season 2. We've spent 12 episodes building the operational backbone of a solo practice. From prompt regression gates to platform migrations to trust centers to this, the incident loop that ties it all together. If you've been building along with me, you have infrastructure now that most small agencies don't. Use it. One thing to do this week, just one. Set up the Statuspage API connection and the Slack approval channel. Don't build the whole loop yet. Just get the draft incident flowing to Slack so that the next time your monitor fires, you see it in a channel instead of in a panicked client message. That's the foundation. Everything else layers on top. I'm Jordan. This is Headcount Zero. Season 3 starts in 2 weeks. I'll see you then.